This one's for anyone who's inspired to get into real estate investing to build financial freedom for themselves, but they're intimidated / can't find any really great deals in their markets that's actually going to cash flow for them. And I'm going to give you the 3-step playbook to land more deals or your first deal by going direct to seller. So back in 2017, I was working 80 hours a week for a company and learning a lot, but I eventually came to the conclusion that if I'm going to work this hard for somebody after 2 years, then it ought to be for me. I've learned as much as I can in this job, and I want to be the one who actually benefits from all this work that I'm doing. Now, I noticed this owner actually had 5 rentals. So I said, why do you have rental properties instead of investing in the stock market like I was? And he said that the stocks can go up and down. So if your goal is to retire by the time you're 40, that may not be a reliable way for you to do so. But if you buy rental properties correctly, they will always cash flow every single month. And that cash flow can stack on top of each other so that it reaches a value that actually supports your lifestyle and you can easily calculate it. So I figured I needed about 15 rental properties in order to be able to retire at a salary of like $70,000 to $100,000 a year replacement, after paying the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and updates to those properties. I even read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which inspired me. In order to retire, working at a 9-to-5 job alone wasn't going to get me there. And I needed something that gave me money that wasn't tied to my time. And one of those asset classes was investments. And the rental properties, they're not completely hands-off, but they should make money every single month when you set them up correctly. And maybe it just takes like a little bit of your time, maybe check in on them an hour per month, for example. So I went searching for rental properties and I looked up on Zillow all the properties in Indianapolis that were for sale. And then I would go into Rentometer and see what this could rent for. And on Zillow, you can actually get a mortgage estimate, including the taxes and insurance. And I couldn't find any properties that would cash flow, meaning that the mortgage, taxes, and insurance, were actually going to be way less than what I could rent the property for. And so I went, I couldn't find a deal. And that was so frustrating. And, long story short, I went to a meetup. I saw people doing deals all the time. And they said I should do what's called driving for dollars, meaning I should look for a rundown property. And then I should ask the owner if they want to sell their house. And if I found 100 of those, it would be likely that I find somebody that actually wants to sell their house and would be willing to give me a discount because their house is run down and something urgent's come up in their life and they need to / want to just get rid of the house rather than pay to fix it up and sell it with a realtor. And I went 2 months looking for these properties until I actually, had my stomach drop when I saw one of these properties I'd written down has a construction crew out there. So I look up who owns it, and sure enough, somebody just bought it for a price that was even lower than what I would have offered. So it could have been an amazing first deal for me, but I wasn't actually the one that reached out. So I had a follow-up issue, and I ended up making this app that would tell me who owns a property when I tap on it, and it would also send a letter to the owner as soon as I tapped on it. So that's how I set off to find a really great deal instead of being frustrated, thinking about real estate all the time, but never being able to take action because none of the deals I was seeing listed on the market were ever good enough. And that was 7 years ago. I'll tell you what, this app actually was something I put on the App Store so some friends could use it, but it's actually grown into an amazing business that has helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states. And ultimately, I had to give it a name to put on the App Store for that friend. So I named it DealMachine. And so from being where I'm at now, having done deals myself, but also, being in a support role for people using DealMachine to actually get deals, I've come up with a 3-step playbook from our top customers. And the very first step is going to be finding the right leads. And I was looking at all these properties that were listed on the market, as I said, but none of those were the right leads because none of them needed to sell their property urgently. They were asking retail price, and that wasn't going to be a good deal for me. So in order to find the right leads, I really, really narrowed down on properties that looked run down. That way, if something happened to the owner as well, meaning maybe they had to move to be closer to relatives, maybe they had a health issue and they need to move into an assisted living place, etc., they may just want to get rid of their house. And that would be a really great deal for me. So finding the right leads, the number one way to do that is to look for rundown houses and send mail. There's also a few other things that you could use, like maybe you could pull properties that have high equity and expired listings. Or maybe you could pull the tax delinquent list in Indianapolis. I recently did this, and it was about 1,700 properties in the Indianapolis area that were behind on their taxes that month. So I sent mail to all of them and ended up doing this really great deal from an orthodontist who bought it in Utah, and he just never got around to fixing it up. He was making a lot of money in his orthodontic practice, and he decided to give the property to me for a pretty good deal of $160,000, even though he paid $200K like 2 years prior. So those are three great ways that you can find the right leads because they have motivation. They're not just every house or every house that's listed. Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom. So part 2 of my 3-step process is actually consistent marketing. Now, the first deal I ever did, he actually gave me a call after receiving about 7 postcards. And his house had a tarp on the roof. It was a really small house set way back on the property compared to the rest. So it was just a bit of an odd house. Would certainly have trouble selling, especially in the condition that it was in. And he actually had surgery so that he could no longer keep track of the grass himself. And he wanted to move into an assisted living center after, living there for 40 years. He was also older. And so that was just like a big lesson because through all the DealMachine customers that are sending direct mail, 15% get a call back on the first postcard, 46% get a call by the third postcard. So keep that in mind. You're missing out on 84% of your deals if you stop after sending one postcard to a property, and you're missing out on 52% of your deals if you stop sending mail after the third postcard. So I recommend 6 minimum over the course of like 4 to 6 months so that you're getting the full value from the efforts you've put to go look for these rundown houses in the first place. And so the DealMachine app will resend that every 21 days by default. And I just tell you that so you can have in your mind, like, what's the cadence I should be following up with this person? That brings us to step 3, which is actually closing the deal. And when I got a phone call from that guy, I just didn't know how much to offer on his house. I didn't know what it was valued. So that really made me uncomfortable even having conversations with him because I knew eventually he's going to ask me. And the way that I solved that problem was I said, I'm going to take 24 hours after we've met and I will come back to you with an offer price. And I looked on properties that recently sold in the last 6 months in the area on Zillow, and that calculated their average price per square foot. I only looked at properties in perfect condition so that I could calculate the after repair value. And today, in DealMachine, you can hit that comps tool and it will tell you all the properties and calculate the estimated value for you. And so that gives me the confidence so that I'm never not answering my phone because I have that pit in my stomach where I'm scared when they ask me what the value of their house is that I won't know. And so those are the 3 steps to actually doing an off-market deal. And I realized that goals define actions, and my actions were driving for dollars and then following up with the property owners. Actions define results. So when I wasn't reaching out to the property owners, I wasn't getting any deals, and somebody else actually took the deal that I could have had that was on my list. And then results are maximized. This is like a bonus step of the 3-part process through on-demand knowledge. And so listening to this podcast will give you frameworks that can help you along the way. We also have a live training for any DealMachine member called the DealMachine Masterclass. And so you get a framework that coaches teach thousands of dollars for by attending these live on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. But you also have reserved time at the end to ask a question about a specific situation you're in. One of the things that I really struggled with was analysis paralysis. I didn't want to take the next step, without knowing all of the steps. And that was actually bad because there was never an end. There was never a situation where I was going to learn all of the steps of how this deal could go. The best way that I learned was through taking action, immersing myself in it. And then whenever I was going to give an offer to this person, because I had a support group, I could come to that group, which happened to be a local meetup for me, but we do this virtual masterclass, which could offer this for you as well. You could say, hey, I have this property and the person wants $10,000, but I think I can only offer $4,000. What do you guys recommend I do in order to progress this deal or follow up or make sure I'm not missing out because I just don't know how to speak about the value and why I have to only offer $4,000. And then they can help walk you through that. And you would never be able to ask that question unless you'd already taken action. So again, I wanted you guys to know the value of on-demand knowledge, know that DealMachine Masterclass is there for you. And again, if you're a DealMachine member, I believe pro or above, so you can do a 7-day trial of DealMachine and get automatically invited to these classes. And if you actually, are a DealMachine member already and you haven't gotten that invite, just reach out to the support and we'll get you guys the invite that you're looking for there. And so that's my 3-step process for finding off-market deals. And this episode, again, is going to be a great one for somebody who's really been thinking about real estate investing for a long time, but hasn't found one that's been a good enough deal to actually take action on. And I hope this is so helpful for you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.